Welcome back to the Netherkast. I'm Borg, and I am joined, as always, by Razor. We're missing Shad, but I'm assuming he'll show up, and we have a guest from the Warrior Shrine, Temp.
Hey,
How are you doing, buddy?
doing good.
So this is episode 72. 72. We got a long way to 100. Just kidding. It's 97. And we only have 3 more to 100. We got 2 more before the actual reveal event. And then the night of the reveal event, that is when we hope to do episode 100 live and in person from the hotel. Don't even know who else is going to be on the show because potentially we might have a bunch of people. It depends who gets to go to the event or whatever we end up doing. I don't know. We haven't really figured it out, but it's something to celebrate, so we'll have a lot of fun with that. As for this episode, we've been talking a lot about Mortal Kombat 11, and with a couple weeks of probably silence before we get there to the big unveiling, I figured, you know what, we've been playing Mortal Kombat X recently, so why not re-review the game? I had actually gone back and listened to our review, which spanned over, I think, 3 episodes, episodes 26, 27, and 28. And we kind of broke it down between story, gameplay, as well as crit, and the game overall. So I have what we scored it originally. And yeah, we'll kind of rescore it, re-talk about the pros and cons of the game, things we hope they improve for Mortal Kombat 11, things we really liked in MKX that we wouldn't mind coming back, and just overall how we feel about it 4 years after the fact. 4.5, I guess. So, Temp, you want to kick us off with your thoughts on MKX? And you can cover everything. So, I mean, there's story, there's the modes, there's the gameplay, the roster, anything and everything, the visuals. There's a lot to kind of dive into there.
I mean, kind of like everything in life, I divide everything into kind of positives and negatives. I guess I'll start out positive. I think MKX is my favorite game to lab, and for NetherRealm games at least for NetherRealm games. Just going to training mode and learning combos and learning like run cancels after landed down fours. That shit is really fun to me. As a matter of fact, we played a set about 2 hours ago, and pretty much I've just been doing Cyrax combos since then. I never even left my chair. I called my brother, hung up, and I just did air bomb combos, and that was my night. So yeah, that's awesome. The game is the execution ceiling is just super satisfying.
Speaking of super satisfying, this would be a great chance to plug the Discord. So if you want to join our Discord, it's
super satisfying.
Yeah, super satisfying. It's in the description of all of our videos and the podcast, so it's free to join. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's basically kind of like a forum and a chat room mixed to one, more chat room than forum. But you can come join. We got several different topics that we cover in different chats, as well as voice chats where you can get together and talk to other people on the Discord, and you can hear us live and ask questions or even come on the show when we bring on guests. So join the Discord. We have constant conversation about MK as well as everything else. So come join the Discord, completely free. You can either do it in your browser or you can download the program on your desktop or your phone. So come join our Discord. We'd love to have you. And yeah, super satisfying.
Super satisfying.
Super satisfying.
It is very satisfying.
It's fairly satisfying.
We got a nice community on here. But that said, continue on. Cyrax, bombs. The most fun and NetherRealm Studios game for you to lab, is what you said.
Super satisfying.
Super satisfying.
I really enjoy the execution ceiling in this game. So that's cool. I think my second favorite thing about the game used to be my first is this is probably one of the most controversial parts of the game, but I still think variations are the fucking bomb. I love that I get to learn 3 Sub-Zeros, and I'm not over that. I'm still learning new stuff with Sub-Zero. I think that is great because if your character sucks, you have 2 more chances to find something good. And I don't think anyone saw it like that. I think everyone was like, oh, there's only one good variation. And I'm like, okay, well, there's only one shitty Sub-Zero in MK9, so you got to pick your poison, bitch. That's how I feel about variation. You know, it wasn't like we had 2 more chances with Striker in MK9. You know how many versions of Striker suck in MK9? All of them, because there's only one. So I just think people have the wrong attitude about this. Variations are so tight, and there's so many good ideas that I just don't think would have been possible otherwise.
Or maybe if MK9 had had more patches, there's only one striker to fix.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I said Mortal Kombat 9 needed one more patch so bad. I think if you balance the top 6, that would be like the best NetherRealm game of all time, like bar none. So yeah, no, I do wish MK9 got that one more patch, but even if the game's not balanced, like just if I get bored of Sub-Zero, I can play a different Sub-Zero. So, and that's kind of why I hate Triborg, because I feel like it goes so against the concept of variations. But yeah, so that's another thing I love about MKX. Yeah.
No one said
Did I interrupt
anything.
myself?
You just canceled yourself.
He does have some
Super
fun.
satisfying.
Super
He
satisfying.
cancels in the middle of a combo.
So yeah, I made Sub-Zero, which I never thought would ever happen. I never thought I would ever get to main Sub-Zero again, which I have not done since Deadly Alliance. And even then, I wasn't competitive back then, so that was just the craziest shit to me. I think Cryomancer, with all his problems, I had a lot of fun with that character.
What in the hell are you clicking?
My mouse.
Why?
Because it's super satisfying. I just really...
No.
Yes, okay, but and the Tea Party's still sick. I still think the Tea Party is the best thing of any NetherRealm story mode. Even if I don't like the story mode,
Tea
that
Party,
part was
yeah. No, the Tea Party and story mode was pretty cool. So I went back, since we've been recently playing a lot of MKX, I went back and watched through the entire story mode on YouTube, which is the best way to experience the story mode. And then I went and watched all the arcade endings and kind of messed around in the crypt just because I needed to get some costumes for the characters I was learning. And that was probably the most time I spent in the crypt, because I didn't ever actually go through and get all the items that you have to get and all that kind of nonsense. I just never really bothered. But I agree with what you're saying so far, in the sense that variations are really cool. I've been on record saying that I wouldn't mind just 2 variations, but we potentially are getting some sort of custom variation in MK11, so it's probably not even worth discussing at this point. But yeah, I liked how MKX handled the variations for the most part. I do like how they implemented them, and I do like them in theory. They are not without flaw, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But as far as labbing characters, I agree with you. So I've played Katana for most of my career in MKX, so to speak. And at one point I learned Kenshi before I stopped playing years ago. I learned Kenshi to a decent degree. I would maybe say like 70% learn that character, at least the balanced variation. And then since picking it back up, obviously Katana, what I learned with Katana was still there, so that was fun. Do not remember how to play Kenshi, so haven't really bothered going back and learning that. I did go because I wanted to learn another character, since, I agree with you. Something you said on the Shrine recently, it might have been on the last episode, I listened to part of it, and you had said what you do like about learning characters in MKX is it still makes you a better fighting game player. And I do agree with that sentiment, that learning more than just one character, it may, even if you don't care that it's going, like, say we only have 3 months left with MKX, which is pretty much realistic right now, you can still put that effort into learning that character, and maybe you're not going to stick with them for that long, but it still allows you to learn more styles and adapt and grow as a fighting game player, so that way when you play MK11, it may not be such a challenge to learn specific characters. You're expanding what type, just your overall skill set, I guess. I know in Injustice 2, I learned, beyond Ivy, I learned Scarecrow and Atrocitus, and these were characters that played very different than Ivy. So I think that helped me learn. So in MKX, as I was saying, I've learned Devora, I learned the Venomous variation, which has been a lot of fun. And she was my pick for when we did our random picks for characters we were supposed to learn for the game. Devore was mine, and so I'm glad to finally learn her. I mean, I touched her when it first came out, and I think I did Swarm Queen or whatever that is, where you do the little bug tornado-y thing. I remember having fun with that on like the night the game came out. But other than that, I haven't really touched her. And Venomous Devora, I've learned she's fun. I started to learn Liu Kang earlier today. I don't know if I'll keep learning him. I was learning the dragon, whatever,
Dragonfire.
Dragonfire. So I started learning that one because it plays a lot like the MK9 Liu Kang, which I like. But yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with you in terms of labbing and learning characters. They are a lot of fun. So I look forward to keep doing that leading into MK11 to in MKX's dying days. Learning some new characters to play is a lot of fun because it almost creates an all new game when you learn a new character. And I know you've said that before, Temp, that
Oh yes, yeah.
learning, like playing the same character, for me, honestly, I can keep playing the same character and still have a lot of fun. If the character's really fun, like Katana is for MKX and Ivy was in Injustice 2. But there is a thrill of learning a new character because then you have a completely new skill set, new tools, and an all new experience. So I do like that. I mean, I just like seeing more characters represented in the group that's playing. So just kind of piggybacking off of what you said there, but carry on.
Well, I think especially in MKX, you have to learn multiple characters because being a 50-50 game, at least I think near the end of our run, basically before we put the game down for the long while, I got so tired of alternating between Sub-Zero's back 3-3 and back 2. Just doing that, it was like hypnotizing how often I was doing that shit. I just got so tired of the game. And as we're going to get to soon, there's still a lot of things I really don't like about the game, but it's so 50-50 based. I feel like if you don't play multiple characters, like the game just dilutes into these two main options. You're just building everything around these two options and how you're going to land them. And it got so monotonous. So I feel like for your sanity, you have to learn multiple characters in MKX. You absolutely have to. But yeah, that covers all my positives. I don't really have anything else good to say about the game. So yeah.
All right.
Oh boy. It was like two positives. Oh boy.
Well, no, I made a
Do
list.
you want to specify negatives, or do you just want to go all of it?
The rest.
I can see my hands like doing the forward motion.
So, well, before we get to the negative, then
Yeah.
I'll pick up the ball or the baton or whatever, and I will list off some more positives before we start diving into the negatives. Because yes, there's a fair amount of negative there, but I still think the game does deserve some mentioning of some other positives. And the next positive I would mention, other than some of the gameplay and the matchups and whatnot, and learning multiple characters and labbing, another positive that jumps to my mind is the story mode presentation and not the chapter system. That is definitely a negative, and we'll get to that. But this was a nice. I mean, they've been kind of doing better and better story modes in terms of the way they look and the way they're presented. Since MK9, then, or I guess even MK vs TC, then MK9, then MK or Injustice, MKX, so on and so forth. Then Injustice 2 is actually really good in that the way they made everything look. So I will give them credit that MKX's story mode, which like I said, I recently watched just a couple nights ago. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story mode a decent amount. I enjoyed watching the story. I enjoyed it more than I thought I did. Like, what I remember about it was more negative than what I actually felt when I rewatched it. So I did enjoy watching that. Let me think. Team Battle's still fun. I know I've complained about Team Battle. Oh, I haven't really complained about Team Battle. Let me reiterate. I've complained about the matchmaking system of Team Battle and never being able to fill up a full team. Well, luckily, now that we have a Discord community filled with people that are wanting to play, and it's only going to go crazier once we get to MK11 when we'll have, 20, 30 people at one given time that are up for playing games. I think if they implemented Team Battle just as it is in MKX and put it into MK11, I would be fine with that. If, say, there's no tag, and they just put it exactly as it is, I'm okay with that, even without matchmaking, because now we actually have enough people in our community that we can fill up these lobbies for a team battle or a King of the Hill, which we did. So yesterday or the day before that, I can't remember. It was just recently. Temp and I, Jaded Rain, Battle Sticks, and some others from the community, Kolbs and Blight. Anyways, we all got into a 3-on-3 team battle, round robin style, and that was a lot of fun. So we mixed up teams to kind of try and find the best balance between the teams, the 3 versus 3. And I still like how it's done. I like that the round robin allows you to face everybody else on the team one by one. And then if you finish before the other matches, you can see the life bars depleting, so you can kind of get an idea of how your allies are doing. And you can warn people. So if you were all in a voice chat, you could be like, watch out, this person loves to block high, but they never block low. You can kind of give your teammates a heads up on how to best face them based on your experience or what characters they're playing, so on and so forth. So I'd be okay with a team battle mechanic like that. I think that would be really cool, if anything, or I mean, I guess at bare minimum, I hope we get something like that back, because that was a lot of fun. So beyond that, positives, brutalities were a great addition to the game. We've talked about that in the past as well, so it's worth reiterating how awesome brutalities are. To me, they are the new fatalities, which is funny because they're more like the old fatalities, which is why a lot of us like them, because they're simple, they're quick, and they take skill to pull off. It's no longer just press these random directions and then a button, which generally aren't even that hard to pull off anymore. They've made them easier and easier over the years, I feel like. And I like that these ones, like I said, you have the fixed camera, it's quick. They don't feel like they're wasting your time so much. And they remind me a lot of the classic fatalities, and a lot of them kind of take inspiration from the classic fatalities. So I'd love to see brutalities back. Do you guys have anything else to add?
Anything positive, Razor?
Not really. I mean, I definitely agree about brutalities. Although I do like fatalities still. I like the camera angle stuff, but
Sure.
it's just it does get old, and brutalities never really seem to get old because they're so quick.
Yeah, they don't last long enough for you to really feel like, this again. Like it's over before you could even say that generally. So yeah, no, they're cool. And it's not.
I just feel like the existence of the brutality system makes it easy for them to keep bringing back like retro finishers.
Sure.
Without like making me download a bunch of DLC and wait for it. Like,
right.
Kung Lao throwing a hat and it chopping a guy's head off. That should be a brutality.
Exactly. So yeah, I'd be shocked if we didn't see that return, because that is definitely one of the higher points of this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about the gameplay. Like, depending on the day, I go back and forth on whether I like this or MK9 better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot on the positive end and a lot on the negative end, and I'm sure we'll get to that. So I guess one more positive thing is I really do like Run. There's been some debates.
I fucking love. Look, I can't really go back and not Run. And I've had arguments about this on the Discord. I think the dash mechanic, which is really just kind of one long step, you're not dashing. It's a poor name for what it does. And what it does is kind of useless to me and my playstyle. I know that it is useful.
I just thought of
I'm not good at it.
You pointing out that it's not really a dash just made me think of like the 100-yard dash if they were just taking like quick little steps. Just like
it's more like the way people quote unquote dash in a Mortal Kombat game reminds me of like a child who's trying to jump over the cracks in a sidewalk.
But no, I agree with you. I mean, we all kind of fall on different parts of the spectrum on the dash versus run. I mean,
the thing about me
I guess.
is that I am super into Rushdown. I'm 100% offensive player. I play fighting games the way Wolverine fights in real life, or in not real life because he's a fictional character, but you get what I mean. Like, I don't.
Razor, we need to have a talk after this.
But no, like, and like I've like the argument against running seems to be people who like to play more defensively and like to have the opponent quote unquote respect their space. I don't want to respect your space. I want to destroy your space and make you eat it.
Sounds
Yeah,
hot.
okay. I've done that.
Well, here's the thing. So, on a scale from, let's just say, 1 to 10, 10 being you love run, 1 being you love dash, it's clear you're as about as 9 or 10 as you could possibly get.
I'm an 11.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know where Shad lies, so hopefully he'll jump in here soon. I'm somewhere, I love run. To me, it was one of those things that defines MKX's gameplay to me in a lot of ways, other than mix-ups and 50-50s, but we'll get into that as we get going into the negatives, obviously. But of the pros, I just remember those initial days with MKX. I mean, you can go back and listen to how we felt about the game when it first came out. As we even talked about this, how it just felt so different because there was no beta for MKX. When we first got the game, that's our first time playing it, and it felt so awkward. It felt like weird to move around on until you started to run. And I remember playing several sets with Temp, and I guess he learned how to run before I did. It just sounds funny. But, and that's when the game really started clicking with him. That's when he fell in love with the gameplay back then, is when he started using run and learned that mobility and just what you could do with it. And I was very similar in that it took me a little bit longer, but once when I started learning how to run and how you can use that to your advantage or to your movement, that's when I really started to really, I'm going to say it 5 more times, really. Stupid.
Hey, 5 more times is justified when something's that super satisfying.
Yeah, super satisfying. Just really super satisfying. But no, it felt good. It felt good when I first learned how to run in Mortal Kombat X and how to use that with your combos and your movement and your jump ins, all of that stuff to rush down your opponent like that. So for me, I fall more on the run side, obviously, but I'm not as, I guess, I'm not as like cut and dry with it. Like if you put run in the game, I'm not gonna, or if you don't put it run in the game and it's just dashing, I'm not gonna be super like pissed off. I'm not gonna be super rubbed the wrong way. I'll still enjoy the game. I'll make do with the dashes like I did with MK9, like I did with Injustice.
Without run, like I don't dash, whether run's there or not. I never dashed in 9. I would get in by jumping, and that's the bad thing to do, but it's the thing that feels natural.
Feels so
and so
right.
I need
super
a mechanic
satisfying
that doesn't punish me for the way I want to get in.
Well, interesting thing about MK9, jumping is not the worst option in the world if you space as a jump kick. If you space your jump kicks right, jumping is not an awful option. As a matter of fact, like deep jump kicks ended up being a mechanic that it was a combo starter by the end of the meta. So I don't think jumping's awful in MK9, but it's much stronger in MKX. Jumping is very good in MKX.
The thing for me is that like I have played too many games where the jump attack was the combo opener. Going all the way back to like MK3 and 4.
Sure. You jump in punches, start off your combos,
it's
right?
Just psychologically, it's what I'm trained to do. So to put in dashes and make anti-air stronger is like telling me fuck you for being a Mortal Kombat fan all these years.
So my question for Temp would be, because like I said, I went back and listened to the old episodes, and obviously this was just when he first got the game. All of us had certain opinions that, of course, are going to change over the years when you start learning more, experiencing more. Temp had once said when he first was playing the game that the run mechanic was the best thing to happen to the Mortal Kombat franchise. How do you feel now based on what you've experienced?
Well, it's important to note that you can't look at it in a vacuum. Run by itself, I still don't really have a problem with. I'll save most of this for my negatives, but the important thing to remember about run is what it isn't. I spent years mastering dash conversions from anti-airs and juggles and just stuffing jumps with down 4 and dashing with a down 1. Like I spent a lot of time doing that, and not because I needed to, although it certainly helped competitively, but because it was fun. That's what was satisfying to me. So many of us spent many amount of months just practicing just that. And to find out that all that was gone with MKX was kind of a big blow. Even before the game came out, when Paulo, I don't even think it was an interview. I think he was in the stream chat right after the game was revealed, and he explained, "There's no dash cancel anymore." My heart just sank. So run by itself, I think, has a lot of merit to it. I don't mind run. It's the rest of the game that sucks. Run by itself is okay. You can make run fun. As a matter of fact, I pretty much know how to fix run so everyone can benefit. So I like both. I mean, if dash cancels never come back, I'll shed one tear and then I'll just do whatever I have to do to be competitive.
How do you
I
fix
still
run?
enjoy. Well, for one thing, you get rid of the dog shit backdash they have in the game right now, so I have real defensive options. The problem with run right now is if you run within sweep range and you jump, it doesn't matter how good my anti-air is because it's gonna whiff. Sub-Zero's down jump 1 is like the dumbest shit on earth. Ermac's air normals are fucking stupid as hell, and he can convert off them even if he can convert off a fucking kick. Scorpion can convert off a fucking kick, and you can't generally anti-air kicks. So it just, if you make defensive options better and just get rid of that shitty stamina bar. I was going to go into this later, but the stamina bar is one of the worst things about MKX.
Oh
like,
yeah, the stamina bar is fucked.
Yeah, just don't take away my options because I decided to play the game. Like, don't do that. And the way they tie stamina to breakers, I already don't like breakers, but it's like I got a hit. I converted off of it, and then you break and you punish me. You punish me for getting the hit.
Yeah, that's what pisses me off. That it's tied to breakers and it's tied to interactables. What do those two things have to do with running?
Oh god, yeah. It's funny, you can do all this, you can slide all day with Sub-Zero, but the minute he picks up a pot, he is winded. Doesn't make any sense. So, man, I just get rid of stamina. Fix backdashes. If you have to have stamina, don't tie it to the backdash. One of those basic defensive options in modern fighting games. Don't tie it to stamina. Don't take away my backdash after I
wouldn't hate dashing if there was distance on the dash. Yeah. Like, especially the backdash. It does nothing.
And it takes forever. Oh my god. There's so many times when I tried to backdash a jump in and it just didn't matter. There's times I tried to backdash a forward advancing string and I didn't even get to finish the dash. I'm already getting torn apart by either Kotal's mids or Katana's her fan string. I'm just getting slashed up. And I did all because I backdashed. I'm like, what's the point? If I could have just canceled that, I could have just blocked. So I don't know. Huge problems with that. I would maybe not running slower, but I would make normals better so I can stuff your run. If you run in, I can down for you better, or I can, I guess just better advancing normals. Not advancing normals. Let's not get crazy. That's another problem with MKX, but just get rid of the fucking dinosaur arms. Why does everyone have fucking a dinosaur arm standing 1? Let me reach shit. I can't punish anything properly in this game.
It's that punching over fences animation problem.
Yeah, that's the Wilson punch. I like that. That's good. I feel like that's a big problem. And you have these supposed punishable moves, but I can't reach. So I'm like, okay, am I supposed to do a run cancel? Then I do the run cancel. Then I try to do an advancing normal. And then you're already blocking. So I'm like, fuck this game.
I agree with you on, a lot of what you just said, but specifically the stamina meter, I can't stand that thing. I hardly ever pay attention to it, so oftentimes it screws me.
Yeah, I only notice it when I suddenly can't run, and I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, right, I just
shitty noise.
Breaker. God damn it.
I notice it most when I'm going for an interactable, because obviously I use a lot of those to get around the stage quicker. And as soon as I go to jump off a post or jump off the tree, and then I'll press the button and I'll just hear, and then at that point I'm already screwed. I've already opened up myself to whatever combo you want to put on me, because I put all my eggs into the interactable bucket or basket or whatever, thinking, okay, I'm just gonna jump off this because this is what I'm gonna do. I'm committing to this. And especially the tree in the Deadwoods, where you actually have to jump up into the air, or that thing in the on the side of the cove, like you have to swing on it.
Oh
Like you
yeah.
have to jump up to use those. So if you jump up and then it completely shuts you down because you don't have any stamina, that's you're just completely screwed. So that is the one of
Yeah.
the most infuriating things is trying to use an interactable, or in your case run or whatever, and then you don't even realize, you think it's a glitch or you think you didn't get it right, so you try it again, you attempt it a second time because you don't even realize why it's not working until you're like, oh, I don't have stamina. Because excuse me, if I can't see that tiny little thin white bar that is not distinguished from your health bar, it's all white, it's the most plain overhead display, which I'll get into that later with visuals and stuff, but that stamina meter is white, just like the other stuff. There's so many times earlier on when we would play, I would mix up who got a win with that stamina meter, because when you get like a win for a round, it fills up half of that like circle. So I was like, oh, I thought that was my stamina meter. It's just confusing. It sucks. So yeah, no, that's frustrating. I just think that's an odd place to keep it anyways. Put it down by the. I generally don't look up there unless it gets down to the red point when my health bar goes down there.
Well,
But
I think the problem with it is the stark white minimalist UI in the game. Like, it was kind of neat, but I want to go back to like green and red health bars now.
yeah, I mean that can transition to our next kind of negative stuff because we're at that point now. Um, and I would just jump into, I guess, or I'll lead off with the visuals in general in this game. And I've said this before, but the lack of saturation, the lack of contrast, the health bars, the display items, the heads up display or whatever, the presentation I'm just not a fan of. It's dark, it's gritty, it's minimalistic. It's got the white health bars, the white stamina meters, the white
It's not
round
really
counters.
dark. It's not dark so much as brown.
Oh yeah, I
Brown
mean
and gray
colors wise,
and
yeah.
tan.
And the battle damage doesn't help either because, as I've said in our recent streams, basically just from playing a single round, somebody's character, like Reptile, all the black parts on his outfit are all brown just from rolling around on the ground.
Yeah,
It's like,
that,
that's
that
not how this
jungle
works.
stage does it the worst because you get any of the swamp water on you and you're just brown forever.
Yeah, it's just like it's like they just pour cocoa powder or dirt all over these stages, and that's just not, I don't know. It's just silly to me. It ruins the way they look, their outfits look.
Honestly,
don't
I've
like
never
that.
liked a single thing about the jungle stage. It might be my least favorite in the whole game.
It's bad. It's on my least favorite. The plane crash stage is probably my least favorite, but the jungle's awful.
The jungle, I do like the vine that you can jump up and grab that serves absolutely no purpose.
Yeah, the vine swing is the one thing.
Well, not just the swing one. I like the one that's literally just hanging down that you can just grab
the
onto.
straight up down one.
Yeah, that does nothing. I guess you could dodge one projectile, but then you could be completely dominated by anybody that has a combo. But no, the visuals in this game I'm not a fan of. The select screen, I've made a video about the select screen and how much I'm not a fan of that. I do like the interactions, like the animations between the characters once you've selected them or when you're hovering over them. Those are cool. I would be fine with those staying. But the actual select screen boxes, their portraits, the surrounding like the overlays and the displays, I want all of that to be more vibrant and colorful and filled with personality. Same with the life bars. I understand that the life bars and the stamina meter and the meter down below, all of that isn't supposed to distract you from the actual gameplay itself. I get that. I understand where they're coming from with that. But still differentiate everything. There's nothing wrong with the red and green life bar. We've had that for how many games before this one, and it never was an issue. I don't like it. I like color and personality, and as Randy Cool and we've discussed in the chat, style. This game needs a style, like a presentation style. It should Mortal Kombat should just be oozing with stylish visuals that say this is Mortal Kombat. Just bland white text and life bars that are sleek and small. That is not what I think of when I think of Mortal Kombat. When I think of Mortal Kombat, I think over the top and just hitting you over the face with things. That's what I want for the game. It's like if they brought in the Injustice announcer at the beginning or finish him. It just wouldn't work. Mortal Kombat's supposed to be loud and crazy and just beating you over the head to the point where you're suffocating. That to me is stylish.
Honestly, if I could choose like what I want the future of Mortal Kombat to be, I would say I want the IP to be bought by the guys who make Killer Instinct.
Yes, I mean Killer Instinct has a
Oh,
style.
Darren Galaxy guys.
Street Fighter has a style. Marvel vs. Capcom has a style. These games have like
but
shit all over the place.
The style that I want Mortal Kombat to have is what KI is doing. Like, just make them the same game. Stop having two different franchises, because this one's doing everything right and the other's doing it all wrong.
But yeah, so I mean that pretty much covers on the visual representation and how that's all done. Getting to the next con, I guess, would be the chapter system. This came up in the chat earlier as well. Please, no more chapters. We don't need... It is not the best... Experiencing a story mode is not the best when you have to constantly stop for fights in between cutscenes. Just like... And then sometimes it's only like 10 seconds of a cutscene before your next fight. Like that whole... Where all the kids take on Sub-Zero for his chapter that just flies by in the game.
Yeah, like the chapter that is quote-unquote about Sub-Zero, but
Yes.
it's not.
So, I mean, I don't like it for that. But, I mean, even worse than that is, one, it exposes, like, it just makes certain characters look stupid, like they're not good, that they're jobbers, because they always lose, because generally you're playing, like, the character you actually play are the heroes. Occasionally you'll get a villain like Devora. And then also, it's not fun trying to learn a character on the fly for story mode. Most people that, like... Well, not most people. Casuals, I'm sure, don't mind this, but I mean, you end up resorting to just using a special over and over, or fly kicks over and over, just because you just want to get through it. You just want to get to the story. You want to get back to the story. You don't want to sit there and stare at the moves list to take yourself away from the story. That is boring. It's not fun. It's not ideal. And then by the time you actually learn the character, like, somewhat, and remember some of their moves, it's time to move on to a different character. That is not the best way to do this. I feel like there's other ways that could be done.
I don't know that there is a best way to do it that would have gameplay in it. Like, you and I have both said that we kind of feel like we wish they would abandon story mode as a concept and instead just put, like, just 3-hour animated movie in the game. And then if you want, like, content that you actually play, just do more challenge tower stuff.
Yes. I mean, there's so many other single player stuff that can do that. I mean, that's what all the arcade towers are for. Like, between playing the story mode and then beating the game with every single character, to me, that's overkill. Like, when I'm done with the story mode, I'm generally, like, reluctant to beat the game with everybody in arcade mode just because it takes so damn long. If I could have a story mode that I can just watch, and keep in mind, I watched Injustice 2 story mode with Temp and Down 4 on YouTube or whatever that was before the game even came out. It was like the weekend before, and it was just stripped down to all the cutscenes, all linked together in one long video. And to me, that was way more fun, way more engaging, and a much better environment to experience the story mode than the chapter system or playing through it on my own. And it was nice. I think
you and I both agree that, like, the cutting to the fighting sort of distracts from the cutscenes.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people out there who, like, kind of feel the opposite, that, like, if you just put a movie in the game, they might not watch it, they might not care. Like, it's the interactivity that makes it worthwhile to them. And I can kind of understand that too. That's why I say there's no perfect way to do it, because the only solution to the chapter system, there's really two ways you can go. One is the sort of way that Soul Calibur does it if it had had real cutscenes instead of like pictures being talked over.
Right.
Where it's like Deadly Alliance Conquest, where you pick a character and then you get a mini story mode where you only play that character, and then every character has their own. And then after you've beaten them all, you have to sit there and think, okay, which order did they go in? And there are some issues with that, in that it doesn't tell you what order things go in. You have to sort of piece it together. And also, if you made like a 10 fight long story mode for a 30 character roster, that's, you know, way more cutscenes than they have time to make.
Right.
Because
See,
like right now we're getting a story mode that's 4 fights for like 12 characters.
right.
So 10 fights for 30 is a lot more work.
Sure. I just want an animated or CGI movie, as we've discussed.
Right.
Give me a 2-hour
Right.
movie. I mean, the cutscenes, when
But-
they're all stringed together, come out to be about 2 hours and 20 minutes anyways. If you just gave me a 2-hour long movie that was just nonstop movie from start to finish and was produced like an actual film from start, middle, and end, doesn't include any like fight scene interruptions that you actually have to play, and it's just all done how they want to do it, and you don't have to follow this character for this amount of time, then this character for this amount of time. That would be so much
Right.
better, because then you would have fights that you don't know who's gonna win, because you always know whoever you're playing is gonna win that fight. It's just stupid. It takes all the suspense
Yeah.
out of it. You know, oh,
The
I'm
other-
playing
the thing,
Sub-Zero.
though-
He's gonna beat all these people. Like that.
Yeah.
Just that's not to me ideal storytelling, and I'm sure they know it too. It's trying to
But-
be the best of two things when it needs to be the best of what it is.
Right. The problem is that it's a video game. They feel obligated to make it interactive. And so like I was saying, there's 2 ways to do that that would be different, possibly better than the chapter system. The one was what I named like Deadly Alliance Conquest, but with animation.
Right.
The other option is the way Street Fighter V did it, where the problem of not having enough time to learn a character is worse, but you get to play everybody when it makes sense to play them. Like, if a villain is supposed to win this fight, you play the villain, you know? And then it switches to somewhere else, and it follows the narrative instead of following this bootleg training mode, and that's the real problem, is that in Ed Boon's mind, story mode is a training mode, and you have to break him of that before we can start talking about improvements to the format.
I wouldn't even say it's a training mode. It's a sampler mode. It's like,
Yeah, but
let's
that's what
sample
it is
these
to him.
characters. Yeah.
And,
So,
and I'm sure he still thinks that way.
anyways, chapter system not ideal. Just give me a 2-hour movie or some other way to make this work to where the fights and who wins aren't obvious. It doesn't interrupt the actual storytelling at play. It doesn't feel like the storytelling is being shoehorned in around it. I mean, there's several issues there, so it's not ideal. I really wish we could just get, like I said, just give us a movie. And as was brought up earlier in the chat as well, I don't think you can even watch just the cutscenes after you beat the game. I think you always have to go back through the story mode.
Yeah,
if you
no,
want to...
there is no watch mode. There's like a skip to a specific chapter and a specific fight mode, but you still have to play. You can't just watch without going on YouTube. There's no in-game option for that.
I was gonna say that's what YouTube is for.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Yeah, but as a
Hi,
developer, I feel I would sort
So-
of be upset that YouTube views are stealing playtime from the game, that like I would rather just put that mode in the game. Because it wasn't that the problem. That's the reason Sakurai doesn't like making story modes for Smash anymore, is
Yeah, that's
because
what killed
people just went
Subspace.
on YouTube and watched it. They didn't even play.
What would be the harm in putting in the actual game itself option to just watch the story mode instead of play it? Like, before even beating it. What would be the harm of, basically, would you rather play through it and that way you get to play the fights, or just watch it and then instead of watching the fights you just see the outcomes or whatever bullshit, so that way you can
Well-
just keep going and move on to the next cutscene?
Well, let me ask you this. So one of the things they do with their story modes these days is when you beat it, you unlock the boss or a whoever character. In MK9, it was Quan Chi and Cyber Sub. In MKX, it was Shinnok. And honestly, that's kind of a worthless thing because why not just have that guy on the roster at the start?
Sure.
It's just Ed desperately clinging. Like, it's not like Shinnok was a secret character. His picture is on the select screen. You just can't click it till you beat story mode. What's the point of that?
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah,
only one that
definitely
you
don't put content behind a
But-
time wall.
It's
For
only
sure.
actually worth it if the character is complete mind fuck of a secret, like Cyber Sub was.
yeah, Cyber
Yeah,
Sub
if there
makes
was
sense.
an actual secret, but then here's the other thing. If there are unlockables attached to story mode, but you also make it that story mode will play itself and you can just watch, then as a developer, it feels like, why did I even make that a thing to unlock? Because you can get it without playing it. And an example of that I would point to is you don't actually have to beat the last mission on the challenge tower to get toilet paper Melina. You can skip that fight. You can skip any fight on the challenge tower for coins.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because I've never played that match. I am not gonna beat Shang, Kintaro, Shao Kahn, and Melina all in a row.
Oh,
I'm
I
just
did
not
it.
gonna do it.
I did it the worst
I don't
way.
want to.
I did it. I didn't know that it got easier if you kept like retrying. Like if you fail and then
Yeah,
hit retry. I didn't know it actually got easier. So I'd always like try it, and then as soon as I was about to lose, I would just press start and then retry match.
Yeah.
So then it kept doing it the hardest way. Like I beat it legit.
Same here. Same here.
I'm not sure if I even tried it at all. I'm pretty sure I beat 299 and I looked at the thing and I said, I wonder if I can skip it, and then I did.
The thing that I came
I
away
was
with
surprised
after
they
all
let
of
me.
that was, for some reason, Melina was the worst one. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I remember her destroying me utterly.
It's
Every
because
time.
she used actual gameplay. Like, the boss characters in MK9 are programmed like 2D era boss characters. They don't have full move sets and they don't behave normal. So they're like specifically designed to be cheap. And so if you're just cheap right back, you can exploit them. But Melina fights like an actual character.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the next negative thing or con of MKX, that would be for me would be the roster. This is honestly one of my biggest problems of Mortal Kombat X. I can put chapter system aside. I don't want to put visuals aside, but roster and gameplay takes priority in any Mortal Kombat game. To me, those are the top two things I worry about. And MKX's roster, man, even just now, to this day, when I look at that roster, the select screen, and I was thinking, what character do I want to learn next? After I was trying, before I decided on Devora, I was like, man, there's really just no other characters I really care to learn, but okay, Devora, sure, she could be fun. After I learned Devora, and I was going to move on to somebody else, I did the same thing. The first thing I went to do was, I went to Google, I looked at the select screen, and I said, who do I want to learn now? I looked at that select screen, and I'm just like, man, none of them are jumping out on me. It doesn't mean I don't like anybody on the roster. There was other factors at play. I didn't want to learn somebody
I think
that...
it is? I think it's a presentation problem.
Well,
you look
yeah.
at the select screen, and everybody's kind of brown, and they're standing in front of a brown background, and they're staring straight ahead. It's like they went out of their way to make everyone look more boring than they actually are.
You're preaching to the choir. I mean, I had said that before. I'm not a fan of the select screen, and that is a major problem. But I mean, just even looking at it, I was just like, man, these characters, they just do not, none of them jump out to me that's like, I gotta learn this character. And there were some that I would have liked to have learned, but I didn't want to learn somebody that somebody already knew. So, I mean, that excluded some of the ones that I might have jumped at. But just in general, I was just like, there's just not a lot here for me. And that's a shame.
I think it was a presentation issue for the most part, because I didn't so much have problems with who was present on the roster. I would have replaced maybe 2 or 3 characters at most.
Yeah,
I liked most of who was there. It's been
yeah,
said
I feel
before,
kind
but
of
he
the
had, like, one
same
of the
way,
best.
but I have the same problem where I'm like, who would I actually want to play? Who do I want to learn? And it's like, look, I like Kenshi, but I don't really want to play Kenshi in this game because I look at him and I kind of fall asleep. Like, I like Jax, but I don't really want to learn Jax in this game because it's this game. It's
Ouch.
it's not
Look, Jax, it's
like,
not
yeah,
you.
like there's
it's
only
it's the
really
game.
I would maybe swap out 2 people and put in like Noob Saibot and someone from the 3D era,
Sure.
and I might be sad. That's might be all I need.
And I should reiterate, when I say the roster is a con for me and one of the worst parts about the game, it's not that I'm saying that it's just like a complete miss. I think we've been saying this for years now, is that, man, like 2 or 3 certain people could have really turned this roster around and taken it from a C to a just by their presence, just by, they would have really added some flash and some flair and all that great stuff to the roster to make it really stand out and give the representation that people wanted. But we didn't get that. And I think the 2 combat packs having 4 guest characters in total was just adding salt to the wounds at that point. So for me, it's like, yeah, I agree with you. If I could take 3 or 4 characters off of this roster and replace them with a very specific 3 or 4 other characters, this roster would be fantastic and I wouldn't have any issues with it. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And we have the roster that we have. And
Yeah, it's
for me,
It bears
it's
saying that. Sorry, I think it bears saying that. I think we've said this before. It's probably got the best overall selection of new characters since MK4, maybe MK3. You know, there weren't
No,
too
I don't
many
know that.
throwaways.
I don't know that at all.
Yes,
I was
yes,
like-
you do, Tim. It's the truth.
I don't know. I mean,
There's not a
I
single
like a lot of guys in
character
Deadly
in
Alliance,
MK3.
so
I think it was a matter of like maybe a couple of throwaways and a few too many members of the old classic predictable good guy squad. You know, did
Well-
Johnny and Cassie and Sonya really need to be there? All 3 of them? I don't know.
Well, it compounds the problem when you turn so many characters into special forces characters. Plus, it's also the size too. Never mind who they picked. 25 characters was just not enough for a game of this scale, in my opinion. And it really shows. I feel like if you keep the same roster and just add 4, diverse characters like a Noob Saibot or a Nightwolf, you do wonders. Like Cyborg said, you
Yes.
go to an A if you can just pull that off. But 25 characters going into the game, that's really, really not good. And to me, the biggest offense of all is they took some of my favorite characters and made them boring as hell. Shinnok is
Yeah.
so boring to this game. Cybersmoke is
really?
oh god, I fucking hate Cybersmoke in this game. He's good, like he's tier, but he's this shitty Vortex character in a game of shitty Vortex characters. So
there's
yeah.
it
It's a
really
triborg, it doesn't
psychological
count.
thing.
yeah, it's not really
What?
cybersmoke. Don't
What I
tell
keep
me
thinking about-
otherwise.
What I keep thinking about is I look at the MK9 roster and I go, okay, I had 3 mains maybe, like Johnny, Jax, Kung Lao. But if I look at that select screen and I think, who do I want to willing to try every single person on that screen? I go to MKX and I have like 5 characters I play regularly, but I don't want to touch a single other person. Just because it's mostly the same characters that are in 9 too. And like, what's the difference? It's because they made them look and feel boring somehow.
I mean,
Also, partially the fact that some of those characters, as they're presented to us, like Liu Kang and Kung Lao and Katana, are lies. They didn't actually look like that in story mode. They're fucking revenants.
I'm
It would have
fine
added
with
some
that.
spice. It would have added some
Yeah.
spice to the presentation, at least, if they'd shown us their default status as revenants.
Well, now here's the thing about that. Liu Kang is the most colorful picture on the select screen because his headband is bright red. So if they had put Revenant Liu's picture up there instead, it would be even more brown gray.
But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that overall the roster could have really used 3 or 4. I mean, if you really wanted us to, we could probably name 3 or 4 other characters that could have easily turned this around. I think One of the top of them would have been Fujin, which I am at this point now just happy he's not in the game. So hopefully he's in MK11.
Yes, I agree.
So
I think that was the biggest dodge we've ever experienced.
Same with,
dodging
like-
that bullet was a blessing.
yes, I mean same with we could say other
You say
characters.
that, but
Oh yeah, I'm glad Lee
not
May's
in
not in this
11.
game.
Lee May, yeah.
Unbelievably
I would say Lee May is in there. Same with Cyrax. Same with Serena or any other character, Frost, that we've been really pulling for. I think,
Rain.
yes, Rain. I think MK11 has already, just from what we've seen of it, has maybe not on a gameplay perspective, but just like the color and the personality, just from what we've seen. Obviously, we haven't seen a ton of it, but it's at least going from one that we know would not have been great for them to one that they potentially could be great in. So I would rather take the gamble of them potentially being in MK11 than knowing they're in MKX at this point. Granted, that doesn't solve our roster problem, but hopefully they've learned from MKX too that they really need a few more heavy hitters. They need a few more of the big fan favorites to make the roster for it to really feel like a tremendous, like a great roster from top to bottom. Not every character spot has to be perfectly filled. Like I said, if someone like Kano or Jax or Sonya or Johnny or whoever, it doesn't matter, or Ermac comes back for MK11, none of that matters. All that matters is that we get enough of the roster of good characters that people have really wanted to really make this game look and feel awesome. That if you do 3/4 of the roster right, it doesn't matter who the remaining fourth is. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That alludes to another point too. If you were to tell me, if someone from the future said, "Hey, MK11 is going to be like MKX gameplay wise, but much worse, twice the 50/50s," and they were to ask me, "Would you still want Lee May and Nightwolf to be in the game?" I would say yes. The difference here is that when MKX came out, as much as the things I loved, the things I hated, there was still the expectation of next time. I don't feel that way about MK11. Because when this game comes, in many ways for me, this feels like the last MK game. Because I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 4 years. I'm going to be almost 40. So I might have kids then. I might be in a different job. I might be homeless. I don't fucking know what's going to happen. So this, in many ways, is kind of the last chance for everybody. So
Let's
I am
face-
still kind of, yeah.
Let's face facts. We're all in our mid-30s and we're still playing MK. We're not going anywhere.
We're all hoping for that phone call to come in. We can move on to bigger and better things.
I don't know if I got 4 years left in me though, because I don't even know if I have Injustice 3 in me. I don't even know if I'm like down for another Injustice. I feel like the train, for me at least, is starting to slow down a bit. It's coming to a stop, so I'm putting a lot of bets on MK11. I think the game will be good. I'm fairly optimistic about it, but
I know, I'm agree with you. So before we move on to the next kind of topic, I agree with you. If you could say, I think a big thing is if they were in MKX, it would already be there and it's done and it's old news by that point. There's a certain excitement that you could have with MK11 that it's, one would hope, well, already, okay, so this we know factually. Character models are going to be better in MK11. There's just no way that they're not. As Temp has alluded to before, or has said outright, that there has been a quality staircase, basically, from their games, that they keep. Maybe not everything's improving. Maybe the gameplay necessarily hasn't improved. Well, I guess in certain cases it has, certain cases not. They're not perfect. But anyways, especially with the character models, it has. If you look at MK9 character models, then Injustice 1, then MKX, then Injustice 2, they've learned how to make female models correctly, or they're getting there. Faces correctly that don't look hideous. Statures that look different and not all cut from the same model, I guess.
They are varying in body types and stuff. The problem I have with the faces in Injustice 2 is that the animations have improved, but because they're now super heavily relying on face mocap, everybody's fat looking.
I'm fine with that. The faces
You
in
take that
not.
back about my waifu. Harley looked great.
Yeah, Harley looked great. Ivy looked great. I'm fine with that. Wonder Woman looked
most
fine.
of the females looked okay.
Yeah.
We're all right.
It was just Supergirl early on, and Harley did look a little chubby in the cheeks. She kind of looked like the oldest sister from Full House, but
And that's
Wasn't
okay.
a deal breaker.
It's okay.
I will end you.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. But the point is, if anybody says they'd rather have Wonder Woman from Injustice 1 over Harley
Well,
from
no,
Injustice 2.
obviously not.
I
But
mean, look at Raven, okay?
Yes.
Do we really need to say anything more than that? Things
Raven
that-
looked like a fucking Baldwin brother.
Raven looked like Tim Curry,
Yeah.
and not in that
Yeah,
good
looked like
complimentary
Bruce
way.
Campbell to me.
point is, their
Maybe it's one of
character.
those things where it's like it was so horrible it had no definitive shape as could be witnessed by the human beings, and to stare too long and it would drive us all insane. We all saw different things. We're not meant to look directly at it. It's the beast.
Their character designs have been improving. So that alone, I guess is my point, that alone makes me more excited for one of my favorite characters to make it into MK11. If you could have said put Frost in MKX or put Frost in MK11, I'm going to take MK11. I'll take that gamble because at the end of the day, I know it's more likely that she gets a better design that way. That was my only point. But regardless, roster-wise, yes. Basically circling back to MKX, 3 or 4 people could have really turned that roster around. Otherwise, I mean, it's still a passing roster. It's not a fail. To me, like I said, I would probably give the roster a C if I had to give it any grade. But I thought, oh, God, why do you do these things?
It's still like a C feels a bit mean. I would have said like a, I don't know, B.
That's not even the
minus.
bad Wonder Woman. That's the render Wonder Woman. She looks like Evangeline Lilly.
I still see Tim Curry staring into my soul right now.
Yeah.
In-game Wonder Woman is much uglier.
Them
But,
shoulders, man.
yeah.
Well, yeah, from the neck down, it's a dude.
Truth.
It's not even a dude, it's like a bird. Look how wide those fucking shoulders are. My gosh.
But
Are we grading the roster? Is that what we're doing now?
Poison Ivy and Injustice 2 looked more Tim Curry. Screw off, Smoke Man. You don't know anything. Grading the rosters?
Yeah, are we giving a letter score or?
We could. I mean, I just did. I said C. Shad said B minus. You said, what do you got, Temp?
Just give it an F. I just don't think it's very good. I hate it.
So that's a D.
Come on. I would probably pluck out 7 characters immediately. Like just gone. Just take
Razor.
them right out of the game.
What?
Razor.
You
Are
got a
you
letter
adding-
grade for us,
what-
man?
what-
Letter grade for the roster. Are you paying attention?
Oh.
I think he's looking at like Raven.
Well, you
again.
started saying my name while Temp was still talking, so I'm like, what am I missing?
Are you gonna take this Razor? Should we-
Yes, letter grade for the roster, like a, I don't know, B minus.
Okay, so you're in agreement with Shad.
Yeah.
This Ivy picture. How does that even look remotely like Tim Curry?
Stop looking at them.
I can't.
I'm not complaining about the women in Justice 2. If a little meat on their bones, a little puff in their cheeks can be fine. But what happens when you get to a character like Katana, who's supposed to have like this thin, sharp-cheeked model face? I'm just worried it's not going to look like her.
I'd buy thick Katana for DLC, but that's me.
Yes, agreed.
I want characters to look like they're traditionally supposed to look. I'm tired of their faces changing every game. I want to go back to like when Katana looked like Talisa Soto in MK4 and Deadly Alliance.
Not Caitlyn Zamyar? For shame.
No, Caitlyn Zamyar looks like just a bland ass white chick. Like Katana's supposed to look a little
We're gonna be sharing a hotel room in like 2 weeks, man.
exotic.
Don't
Is
test
the
me.
word I would use.
I don't know. I always kind of preferred the way Katana used to look. I don't think that the Deadly Alliance PS2 Xbox era did a lot of the models any favors. I find a lot of the time they looked better in the renders than they did in engine.
Well, yeah, I'm not. That's really not like a conversation we're having. Like nobody's going to defend the in-engine graphics of the
Yeah.
3D era.
Dear God, dude,
Even
what the hell is your
sometimes-
problem?
Even sometimes,
Get
I just
that shit out of here.
something felt off to me about Katana and like the renders too. I wasn't a fan.
I mean, look, it was PS2 graphics. There was a ceiling, and you just had to deal with it. You had to like imagine it better than it was. The point is they were going for Talisa Soto, and that's how I imagine Katana to look. And I just want them to get back to that in now that we have an engine that can do that.
Oh my gosh, please stop. All right, well,
I'm just not gonna continue this thread because plainly BZ wants to move on.
okay, so we rated the rosters. Gameplay. So, Temp, go ahead. Gameplay.
Be
Negatives.
honest now. Tell us what you really feel, Temp.
Man, I guess the best place to start is the recovery frames and the buffering system. Buffering inputs in this game is so jank, and you could be in recovery frames forever. I can't remember if I said. I know I said this 100 times. I still don't know if we were recording or not. There were times I was fighting Kenshi, and I would block a telekinesis move, and then after I blocked it, I would buffer the run input, and I would still be blocking. I'm like, are you fucking serious? And because of this, not only does this make for a very awkward and just not fun to play game, but it made punishing so difficult. So and that not being able to punish in this game is a big deal because people are jumping in for free half the time. So it just created a lot of problems. The game doesn't feel good, and when you lose because of that shit, I mean, oh god. Anyway, but so that was a big problem. And like I said, the roster is problematic, and the characters I really was looking forward to ended up being huge disappointments. So that was bad. Although characters I was not looking forward to, I ended up loving. I love Nimble Reptile. Nimble Reptile's great. Cryomancer, I didn't plan on mating him, but yeah, Cryo was fantastic. Problems, of course, but we don't need to go into that right now. Air normals are fucking busted in this game, and they're so uneven. I don't understand why I can jump in and do a jumping kick, and Katana, while after I'm in the air, while still on the ground, Katana can jump backwards and do an air one. I don't know why that beats out my jump kick. It doesn't make any sense. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, Sub-Zero barely has to leave the ground to land his fucking jumping one. Like, why? It's so dumb. You watch high-level Cryomancer, it is the weirdest looking thing to me. And that it's a lot of the pattern here is there's a lot of anti-fundamentals going on here. There's a lot of things in the game that make the basic fundamental game difficult to play, and that affects footsies. That affects any sort of it affects your reads even. If you're gonna go in for a read, you could do everything right, and just the game itself works against you. It's so frustrating. I just feel like better defensive options are a good way to go, but just options in general, I feel like I can't move half the time in this game. So, I mean, a lot of it I've already covered, but the biggest offender is by far the stamina bar. Let me backdash, please. Just let me. You know what? Take away all my invincibility frames. I don't even need an invincible backdash. The only thing that is really good for is on wake up and getting out of block strings. You can take away all my invincibility. I don't fucking care. But let me backdash when someone's jumping in. Let me anti-air them and make my backdash good. Don't make it have a million duration frames. Just let me fucking backdash. Don't let everyone jump in for free. Next.
You forgot to drop the mic.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, the entire character of Takeda would not be playable without his NJP.
Gosh, man. I got PTSD from that fucking thing.
It's like, he doesn't have a moveset, he has just that.
I don't think I've ever seen Kung Jin on the ground. Is that a thing that happens?
They've spoken of it in Legend.
No, Tent's definitely right about that backdash. As a whole, MKX feels kind of engineered to always be pushing you forward and making you aggressive, and it just doesn't feel on the whole as mobile as MK9 did, and I can't lie, MK9 felt better to play. Temp's a lot more technical about it, but if I had to choose what's more playable between the two of them, yeah, it's 9 to me.
All right.
Dead
Okay.
silence.
So gameplay, I'll throw out my rating. I'll throw out my rating for gameplay. I'd probably go about 7.5. 7.5. for many of the reasons that has already been covered by Temp. And there's positives. You know, it's still fun to me to play matchups. Like I said, matchups are the most fun when you can just do a set, you know, like grind out 20 matches with somebody on the same characters. I have a lot of fun doing that with Temp. So we did we did a set earlier. But yeah, so it can be a really, really fun game. But yeah, the mix-ups, the 50-50s, block stun, the lack of good dash, the all-aggressive gameplay, so on and so forth as Temp is. And the stamina system, I mean, we covered that a little bit earlier as well, and just how crappy that is. There are certain parts that bring it down, but ultimately I still enjoy it, so I'd say 7.5. Razor?
Did he drop his mic again?
Yeah.
God damn.
That was an accident.
Which part are we grading here?
Just the gameplay.
Just the gameplay in general.
I don't know, 8.5 out of 10.
Temp?
I'll probably say a 4. Although, really, that's not that bad of a score. I mean, if it wasn't for the combos and the execution stealing, it would be significantly lower than that.
All right, and so that really leaves the only thing remaining to touch upon on the game is
Don't
the
ask
game.
my score.
I thought you said it when you said your gameplay.
No, but I mean as a number, it's a 5. As a hit and run player, I feel crippled.
Okay, yeah, I can agree with that.
What did you say before?
I didn't give a number.
Somebody gave a number.
I gave
not
a
I.
number, and
think
then
Razor
Temp
gave a number.
I could
Temp
have.
gave a number before I did. I'm
Doesn't
pretty sure.
matter. I could have sworn I heard something, but regardless. So next is to go ahead and rate the game overall as a whole. So all things included: story, gameplay, roster, visuals, modes, everything, just as a whole. And you can say why.
I mean,
you can give your pros and
Did
cons.
we,
or
did we
whatever.
actually? We talked about story mode mechanically, but did we actually talk about the story?
No.
I'm hoping we wouldn't.
It's just you can go for it.
I mean, it's still better than 9s.
I knew he was going to say that.
Look, you could shit the bag and it'd be better than MK9's story.
MK9's story is bad in the sense that it shits all over prior canon. A lot of people were
bad
really
even internally. Like,
No,
there are
like,
scenes
there's-
that contradict other scenes. There are things that don't make sense, like why is Shiva even on Shang's Island? Why is Goro not introduced at all, even though he's the champion, until right before Liu fights him? Like,
But again, you're coming at this with as a person with a lot of prior knowledge about the series. If you're just looking at this as a huge reboot where you're allowed to throw anything you want out of the window, and yes, I'm very, very aware that like they were also trying to have their cake and eat it too in terms of retelling the original canon but with differences. This is just one of the things that like they do when they reboot things. It's like 2009.
yeah, they make them dumber and worse. That's true, but that
Well,
doesn't mean it's
yes.
an automatic part of rebooting. It just means writers are dumb. You can make a good reboot. There have been like movies in history that have been remade and didn't suck. Like
Yes, this is
Ocean's
very
11.
true.
That's a
But again,
remake.
The first things like that you mentioned when you said the story was terrible is that you're asking why Shiva's on the island. To someone who does not know about the original timeline, where
No,
she's supposed to be
if
an X or Y
even if
time,
you're not
that
familiar,
doesn't matter
it does matter. She's not a participant in the tournament,
until
and she's
MK9.
introduced before Goro is. Why
Yes.
would a writer do that?
I agree that it doesn't make much sense. Yes. I
If
didn't
you've
say
never
MK9 was
seen
a good
a Mortal Kombat game before, it makes even less sense. Not more.
Are we talking about MKX's story?
No, we're talking
You
about
started
9's
arguing
here.
with me, and I strongly disagree with the premise that if you are unfamiliar, it's somehow better.
I'm not saying it's necessarily better. I'm going to say it's not. I'm saying it's not as maddening. Like
It's not as maddening
The-
because you're not invested, but it's still
precisely
bad
my
and
point.
dumb.
Precisely my point. But a lot of people I'd say quite fairly, thought that MK9's story was pretty amazing because it took. Hang on, I know
Because of the
I know,
presentation.
because of the presentation and because it derived from some very, very strong material that had already been told. Again, to be fair, much better.
Yeah, the rare occasion when it didn't fuck up the source material was a gem. Because the source material was gold. They made
Most of the
fucking
time.
anthracite out of it.
I know I can engage in measured criticism with you when MK9's story comes to mind. Absolutely every time. But no, we're getting off track again.
Yes.
I agree completely that MK9's story shit the bed on a number of occasions.
What I was gonna say about X is that when it first came out, I was more positive on it than I am now. I still think it's good. Like, the plot makes sense. It's written by someone who can connect 1 + 1 and arrive at the number 2. And so just by being basically competent, it passes the bar. But it does have huge problems that have grown on me as problems over the years since it first came out and we reviewed it the first time. I have grown to like Cassie Cage less as a character. I am less forgiving about her and Johnny's Deus Ex Machina force field powers. I like Devora's heel turn less. I could nitpick things about like Jax leading a group of special forces into the Netherrealm just kind of being silly, like the military invades hell now? If that happened in the real world, there would be some deep metaphysical thinking we'd have to do about the universe we live in.
I mean, that is kind of why we have the OIA. Portals and horrible places.
We don't have the OIA in this universe. That's just the US military.
Eh.
And the point I'm getting at is it's less of an A+ to me where it was when we first reviewed the game when it was fresh. Now it's more of a B-, maybe a C+.
I'd say it's a B. The only major problem that I really have with it is that it just doesn't particularly have a lot of strong protagonist presence. And like we've said this. There's a reason that we all call them the Kombat kids.
Yeah.
It's that they feel like one singular group.
So what I wanted to say is that Mortal Kombat 9 and X both feel like episodes of Defenders of the Realm to me. And there are people who will think I'm exaggerating or, making a joke when I say that. No, they actually feel like this week I've been watching Defenders of the Realm, and it's the same tone. So that's kind of a problem. I mean, there are parts of Defenders of the Realm I really like, but that's not really how canon Mortal Kombat should feel. Like that Saturday morning cartoon, everybody's on a team, getting along, happy-go-lucky superhero thing. I don't think that's how a Mortal Kombat game story should feel.
Sure.
And I don't know that there's anything you can do to fix that because MKX was specifically engineered to be the story of Cassie Cage's team.
That is, in a nutshell, my problem with having a small group of fresh new protagonists as your main force. I just don't like them as a unit. I'd like them more if you split them up and have them all do their own separate things, which I hope that MK11, if it doesn't include them all, does do.
Yeah, I also think like between like the voices they casted and the dialogue they wrote for them, ostensibly they're roughly the same age as the main characters were in MK1, like they're all in their mid-20s, but and this is a real world thing too, like the current generation of 20-somethings does behave more like teenagers who haven't grown up. So like I can't say that they're wrong for doing that, it just doesn't feel good.
I think it's a problem that a lot of fictional works have, wherein you introduce a character that is explicitly designed to be accessible and the entry point into the franchise or the universe for the viewer, but they just act so dumb. It's like you're talking down to your audience. And I also want to say that I've been saying for years that explaining Johnny's chi powers and whatnot was a bad idea.
I don't have a
If
problem
that
with
had-
them explaining his powers. I have a problem with those powers being anti-god powers. Like, you could have come up with an explanation where he doesn't have the win button against Shinnok. He has a reason that he shoots green shit, but it doesn't make him magically invincible against... Well, it doesn't make his daughter magically invincible against an elder god who has successfully absorbed the Earth's power.
I feel like they kind of wrote that explanation and origin for his powers with the foresight that that's where they'd be going with him. And if not for all of this stupid chosen one genetic heritage bullshit, I think we'd all just be saying, it is really cool that Johnny Cage, out of all people, just stepped up and was able to beat Shinnok.
Well, look, Liu Kang was the chosen one, and that was the explanation in the 2D era, and we were okay with that.
Yeah, but there doesn't need to be multiple chosen ones.
Liu Kang
Then it
still
gets
had
old.
to fight, is the point I want to make. Johnny Cage and Cassie just have a force field, and they can't even really control it, but that's good enough to beat, like, if it was enough to beat regular Shinnok, fine, but corrupted Shinnok is supposed to be... Okay, so he has his amulet, and he's succeeded in taking the power of the Jinsei. This is supposed to be the form that will let him kill all the other Elder Gods and rule the universe. Having a mortal, no matter what the backstory for their powers is, be able to knock him unconscious without being wounded. Like, it looks like it was an easy fight. It's a staging problem. It's a presentation problem.
Right. Hey, Temp,
Yep.
thoughts on story?
I like the Tea Party a lot.
Yeah, I would. The Tea Party's the best scene. Scorpion's
Sure.
chapter is the best chapter of anything in the entire reboot so far.
So what would you rate it, Temp?
6 out of 10 for the Tea Party.
Okay.
Otherwise, doesn't care.
I'd probably...
I don't. Okay. So
Various sound
Yeah.
effects.
I guess the thing I like about story mode is I don't want to unearth that previous argument we had 10 minutes ago, but it's the same thing I like about MK9 story mode. Is it's not really about what happens. I like seeing the characters I love talk and interact with other people, even if it's dumb. Like MK9 didn't have a good story, but I like seeing Thomas Vibrata talk to people. I like seeing him put on new costumes and hang out with people. That's cool, right? I like seeing him be sad about things, even if what's happening is stupid and should be completely retconned.
The interaction,
see
yeah.
that. What's up?
Brings a lot of bonus points for it too.
Yeah, a lot of these characters never had voices before, you know. I like seeing Cabal talk shit. That's fun. Doesn't matter if what's actually that was cool.
And
I
that's,
thought
that's
that was...
why people rate MK9 so highly. Is it was the first time we actually got cutscenes at all. Period.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
characters I
something
never
we've
thought
all
we'd
been
see.
waiting for a long time to see these characters actually like come to life. It's just it breaks my heart that the script around it was so bad.
Oh, well, me too, and that's why I went into MKX's story mode, kind of just like, you know, what come what may, because I mean,
Well, yeah, the bar was so much lower that you're more forgiving or you're less invested at this point. Like I
Well, it
know
was
there's a lot of
broken.
people, and I think some of you guys have said before that you're not really attached to this timeline anyway. Like you don't
No,
expect the story to be good, so you don't care that it's not. And I can understand that.
Well, even if it was good, let's say MK11 blows it out of the fucking water, and let's say they're not doing the timeline thing. To me, the story ended with Armageddon. That was the end. The story I fell in love with finished. For better or worse, it finished. This is something new in my mind, which doesn't make it bad. In many ways, it is bad, but that by itself doesn't make it bad. And there's a lot of things I don't hate about the MKX story mode. like I said, seeing old Sub-Zero just be a nice guy, like not even take the Tea Party out, just him mentoring the Teen Titans, like that was I liked that. I like Sub-Zero just being a chill dude. That's fun to me, you know. On the flip side, I hated Kotal Khan every time he was on screen. I think he's a giant dumbass. I wish they'd take him out of the game. That's how I feel about that. So it's really it's hard to get super invested, but there are things I'm always gonna like. Uh, I I wouldn't even have brought up the Tea Party if I completely didn't care. But I'm not gonna play it. I want to YouTube it again. So
Sure.
I
Let me
hope it's
ask you
good.
this about: do you like comic Kotal better,
Oh yes.
or is it just the fact that he's this guy who walks around saying these vague, Native American sounding fortune cookie sayings? Like,
I think his motives don't make a lot of sense in the game. But Comic Kotal was fine. As a matter of fact, I don't think I would have been as pissed about Game Kotal had I not known about Comic Kotal. So I just kind of hate that switcheroo they did.
fair enough.
Yeah.
I definitely get that.
The part where
I
he
kind
was
of like Kotal as a character. I definitely think that by the end of the game, he had become a dumbass. I also, it does kind of like, I find it a little obnoxious the way he's always got these little sayings like forge words like silver and whatever.
Yeah.
I think
He was
that's a
very
little over the
stock.
top.
okay.
But I kind of tended to appreciate MKX's story mode quite a bit because even if what's going around is kind of dumb at times, the places that it brought a lot of our old favorite characters to me are it was very invaluable. To me, it's heartwarming to actually see Johnny and Sonia having had a relationship and a marriage and a child, even though it failed. To see Jax get his life back, retire back to his farm, having a life outside of being a special forces agent, the Tea Party, Reptile actually being appreciated by someone and having a place in Kotal Khan's army, Melina actually, I don't know, trying to do things and failing again, like she usually does. I don't know. Melina not so much, maybe, I guess. But most people, the game did all right by. It was nice to even see Tanya and Rain get little cameos for what that was worth.
They gotta
Yeah,
fix
yeah, I
his
feel
voice
like
the next one though.
whenever the game was focusing on a character that wasn't a member of Cassie's team, it was great.
Yeah, like the game did so well by Raiden too, especially after last time. He actually came
That's
across as a
true,
guy with a
like-
lot of regrets. So even if the story is not all it could have been, I mean, it even arguably did Shinnok better than he'd ever been done before.
As much as I hate the canon portrayal of Raiden as like boring exposition guy, I will say like the difference between MK9 Raiden and MKX Raiden is night and day. He is a much better character.
They knew no one was happy with what had happened with what had happened previously, and even Quan Chi, for as much as I enjoyed watching him get his nuts stepped on and decapitated, because I've hated that guy and been tired of his ass for at least 10 years now, it was so fitting that he spent his very last moments getting the job done, as he always does. I feel like it was very fair to most of the existing cast, and I give it a lot of respect for that.
I do wish Sub-Zero had had more of a role. Like, I think I said
Agreed.
that way back in the day. Like, the thing that always bothers me the most about MKX story mode is just that Sub-Zero's chapter is really just more pushing Cassie for SummerSlam. Like, Sub-Zero doesn't ever really get to do anything in the game.
There could have been a fix to that though, because when he's basically stepping in to stop Kotal's army, they could have made that much more epic instead of
Yeah,
him
they
just
could have
kinda showing
they could have
up.
put his chapter there. Like, the part where they go to the Lin Kuei temple could have been. You know what? Sub-Zero just could have had 2 chapters. He had 2 chapters in
I agree with
MK9.
that.
He's
Let's be-
Sub-Zero.
Let's be real. Anything that is not Mortal Kombat Lin Kuei, the video game, is probably going to fail at showing us everything that Sub-Zero gets up to.
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
take a
Like,
lot.
Sub-Zero is, to me, the main character of this franchise. So anytime Sub-Zero's not on screen, people should be asking, where's Sub-Zero?
Oh, I was. He's the most likable character too. Like I just like the guy. I like spending time with the guy. He's just a very balanced character. And he makes everyone around him more interesting, but we just get so little of them.
Yeah.
Scene. Shao Kahn's war room. So, where's Sub-Zero?
You know he's not on our side, right? Yeah, but he's just so much fun to be around.
He's so dreamy.
So yeah, B minus.
Okay, it's a B plus for me.
Oh, do we do numbers or letters?
I think we're doing letters now.
Okay.
I've been switching back and forth. I am deliberately not consistent.
Okay, it's a B plus or a 7.5 for me.
It's a C. It's a solid C for me.
Isn't a 7.5 a C?
Yep.
I don't know.
School grading
75%
is a C. A B
But
plus
5
is
is average.
now a B plus would be like an 8.7, 8.8.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're operating on also a 10 letter to 10 number scale here?
I'm just
Well,
saying
you-
that's how
you
it
went
works
to-
in school.
Why
What
did we
do
switch to
Canadian
numbers?
schools
The numbers
grade
were
with?
just going to
Do
be
they-
letters.
Okay,
let's-
so B plus / 80%. Okay, 8 out of 10. That fair to you?
Sure. So for the game overall, because I think that was the story, this is
Game
what I
overall.
actually wrote down, what everybody rated it before. So these were numbers, just so everybody's clear. So the game overall temp, what would you give it? What's that?
What the hell kind of Hellraiser shit is going on over there? Hey, Tim, how do you feel about MKX?
I wasn't ready for this question.
The lament configuration has been opened. Horrible chains are coming out, and they're seizing him by
His
the
letter
temples.
grade is inside the puzzle box.
I'll give it a 5. I want to give it so much lower, but like I said, if I take the hours I spent labbing, I averaged it together with my wins. I'll give it a 5
Out of 10?
out of 10.
Voice gradually growing more demonic with every.
That's a great grade. Like, 5 out of 10 is what I would give, like, Armageddon.
Armageddon's. Oh, you mean the game? Oh, I thought you.
Yeah, the
like
game
Bruce
overall.
Willis.
Game overall.
So forgettable that they remember that terrible movie before they remember the game.
Shad, what would you rate the game? Oh, before we move on, actually, before you give your score, I do want to say what temp rated it before, so we'll go person by person. So he gave it a 5 out of 10 now. Back then he gave it a 6.5 out of 10. So not too far off.
Oh, very good. That's the next.
Wow.
Huh.
All right. 7 from moi.
Okay,
I would give it, like, a...
hold on. So Shad
Okay.
gives it a 7 out of 10. He gave it an 8.5 at the time.
That sounds about right.
Razor?
Like an 8.5.
Back then you gave it between an 8 and a 9 is what you said, so which would be like an 8.5, so you've pretty much
So it
stayed
hasn't really
consistent.
changed for me.
I'm gonna go with 7. Back then I gave it an 8, so it's gone down a bit as I've realized more issues with it. Not too far. So yep, there you go. All of us went down for the most part a little bit, not too much, but
I weirdly was and still am the most positive on the game, I guess.
yeah,
I think presentation is just my biggest problem with it. The brown, the kind
Yeah.
of pretty select screen, the lack of, to summarize things, purple in Outworld, you know? It felt like I was in the dark mines of Kuatan for a lot of the game. You know? It looks like a duck. It doesn't play like a duck. Am I making sense, or has the alcohol already kicked in?
nope.
Okey-dokey.
I don't know.
On that note,
I think a duck would have been better.
so that's our re-review
Yes.
of Mortal Kombat X in the coming weeks. So we are less than 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from now, I should say, we will have played it, and we probably would have already recorded our podcast or be in the middle of recording our podcast. Crazy to think it's just 2 weeks. And so we want that to be episode 100, so that means we need to get 2 more episodes done before that. So we'll have to do one next Thursday and then one additional one before the following Thursday. So as far as what we cover in those next 2 weeks, we haven't decided yet. Obviously, we'll do a last minute, I'm sure, get everything out there that we hope for or whatever before the lid comes off. But yeah, so we'll figure it out. One last time, I will say, join the Discord. You can join all the conversations and listen to us live and come play games with us. Come play some Mortal Kombat X. It's been fun. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. And on that note, take care.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
You will never win.